A courtroom is always a tough place for a corrupt cop as it exposes their lies for everyone to see. Today, we will explore shocking moments when crooked officers were completely exposed and taken to cleaners in court.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor.
Cops consider themselves untouchables as they go on arresting anyone they wish. They forget that they are only paid to enforce the law and are not above it. But today, we'll be going through these cases where evil cops were owned and humbled in courtrooms. Officer Michael Wagner had arrested defendant Lisette Gonzalez for a DU-1. However, during court proceeding, it was revealed that he never administered a breathalyzer test, yet falsely recorded that she tested above the legal limit. When the judge learned of this, he responded in a way that had not been seen in courts before.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months for nothing. So are you going to null process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you taking him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
This action visibly angered the judge, and he would not stop here as he went on to grant more favors to the defendant.
This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they... You know what?
Their address on file.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the
granting.
charge and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
You don't agree with the state's decision on
I'm
the
granting the
other
JOA
charge?
in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not. Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion to JOA is granted.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? Appeal me.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
The judge not only reversed his decision, but acquitted the defendant on the spot, leaving the arresting officer and his attorney in dismay. Well, sometimes police officers do the unthinkable in courtrooms, costing their cities thousands of dollars. In a September 2012 hearing of an assault case, Judge Doris Bird laid out punishment for an assault Anthony Waller when a police officer decided to take matters into his own hands.
Investigation for false imprisonment, assault in the third degree, assault as a class 2 felony, and a misdemeanor charge as well in possession of drug paraphernalia.
I'd like to object first. If I'm under investigation, I thought the investigation came first, then the rest came. Hold on, man.
Get on your feet. Don't turn on me. Get on your feet.
Waller was only talking to the judge when Deputy Brady Lovingier slammed him to the ground before taking him away. The suspect later claimed that he suffered broken teeth and head wounds. As a result, the deputy was suspended by the sheriff's office and ultimately resigned. On the other hand, Mr. Waller ended up getting $50,000 in damages from a federal jury. This officer lost his job for this. But what happened to this next bully in court will leave you all satisfied.
5 individuals claimed that this defendant taped them when they were not consenting to it, when they were not looking.
January 2023, Behar County Deputy Andrew Garcia was arrested for using his taser on cadets in training. Garcia was charged with 2 counts of official oppression, assault with bodily injury, and harassment. He pled guilty to the charges as Judge Boyd proceeded with the case.
You entered a plea to account for tampering with the government record. You entered a plea of guilty. The state waives counts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7. According to the plea bargaining agreement, punishment is to be assessed at 1 year in the state jail facility. The state recommends community supervision. They're opposing your application for deferred adjudication. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI report? State?
Yes, Judge.
Defense?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, I've gone over my client, him a chance to read at his own pace.
It was Deputy Chavez.
No. Not in training, because you were not tasing people in training. I know that sometimes, and I don't know if it's still the case, I think it's not the case, they would tase officers in training so they would know this is the voltage of the taser, this is how it feels.
The state attorney explained what Deputy Garcia had actually done. The revelations will surely leave you in shock and dismay.
Yes, Judge. So this defendant took advantage of people who he was supposed to be supervising and training in the Bexar County Jail. He was the CERT deputy in charge of cadets and lockdown units with violent offenders, people with ag assaults, murder charges pending. At least 5 individuals claimed that this defendant tased them when they were not consenting to it, when they were not looking, and that he did it in front of inmates, which, jeopardizes the security of the jail and also does not help with the retention issues that the jail is having as well. At least 2 of the victims left after that they were tased because they didn't want to be part of that work environment. Some of them were tased on the arms, legs, back, stomach. Multiple people said they did not want to be tased. He did it anyways. There's evidence that after he tased them and that the victims would ask him, "Why'd you do that?" He would look at them and smile. Some of the people consented to being tased. However, it was under a type of duress. For example, one of the victims went to him asking for clippers so that they could cut the inmate's hair in another unit. And he said, "I'll give them to you if you let me tase you."
It's bizarre to hear that a law enforcement officer was being a straight-up bully and was harassing his juniors who were there for training. However, the events keep on getting worse.
In the PSI, I noticed that he said that he had been tased before. There's evidence that was uncovered throughout the investigation that he would, when the victims would say, "Hey man, why'd you do that to me? Have you ever been tased?" He would respond back with, "No, and I'm not going to let anyone tase me." So I don't know which part of that is actually true. Judge, I just want to make it very clear that when these reports come out and when all this stuff is happening, they don't say Andrew Garcia was tasing people in the jail. They say a Bexar County Sheriff's deputy was tasing people. He's besmirched the badge of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. This is supposed to be a controlled environment, and he added chaos to an already chaotic environment. By doing this in front of the inmates, it put not only him in jeopardy and the cadets, but also the other inmates. And it is his sole job in the jail to maintain the health and safety of the inmates who are there. When he was confronted about it, he put on a government record that he does not recall this ever happening. However, in the PSI, he says the reason he did it is because it was done to him. The old saying, if all your friends jump off of a bridge, are you going to do it too? And here it seems like he just went along with it and was tasing all these cadets.
The poor cadet who was multiple times spoke to investigators, or else this unlawful practice might have continued even longer.
The defendant is 6'10", 245 pounds, at least at the time when he was working there. One of the victims is 5'2" and 112 pounds. And he reported that he was held up against the wall physically, and that this defendant would not set him down, that he would put him into an arm bar in front of other inmates and tase him multiple times in front of other inmates. This was not a one-off time, Judge. If it was, I don't think the state would be having such an issue with the bird. It's the fact that we found out that this happened to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 individuals. And the one individual he didn't tase, he would harass. So when he would go to start doing his checks on the inmates, this defendant would point the red dot at him, come up behind him and clack the taser while the cadet was just trying to do his job. Therefore, the state thinks that this defendant should carry a conviction because of the egregiousness and because he has besmirched the badge of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
Defense.
It seemed the bully enjoyed harassing and attacking those innocent young cadets. Shortly after, his attorney had the floor, and the corrupt deputy tried his best to play the victim card.
What you're accused of by tasing and harassing these cadets is not a proper work environment or training environment for them.
100%.
Okay. Have you learned from this not to do something like that?
100%, yes.
Okay. Were you ever tased? Yes or no?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And is it part of training that everybody's going to get tased sooner or later? Normally a time when they get tased.
At a time and a place, yes.
Okay. And did you notice anything from the inmates reacting to your alleged misconduct?
I'm saying I do not recall tasing in front of inmates.
All right. So, and this is your first offense,
Yes, sir.
correct? Okay.
Excuse me. No.
This is a first-time offender. I do understand what I did was, wrong. I would not do it again. It's a mistake. I'm about to get married here in the next couple of weeks. I asked for, if you could on deferred, I would greatly appreciate it. Have them a lesson, Your Honor. And I would never ever do anything like this again.
Any questions?
Any questions from the state?
Just a few questions. So your attorney asked you, you know that that's not a proper work environment, stuff to do in the work environment, correct? But you understand this is more than just some type of workplace harassment, that was criminal conduct you were doing?
Yes.
Where you were housing people who have allegedly committed crimes?
Correct.
So in fact, you were committing crimes in the jail?
Correct.
No further questions, Judge.
Nothing else, John.
All right.
After the defense and state presented their arguments, Judge Boyd took charge and announced the sentence. But before that, she took this bully to the cleaners.
We are actually going to marriage license to pick up the proper documents, and then whenever I guess they have their scheduling, we'll pick a date, but as soon as possible.
All right. The state is asking for you to have a conviction. If this were counts 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7, I would probably have no question about giving you a conviction. But however, you do need to be punished. And punished is not just permanent surrender of your TCO license. So I'm going to give you a choice. I will give you 4 years deferred adjudication. With that, you're going into custody to the Bexar County Jail for 30 days. That's your punishment. Or I will give you a conviction. Which do you choose?
And the conviction, are you just giving regular probation? Is that what you're saying,
Yes.
Your Honor?
Deputy Garcia was a lying coward. The only reason he didn't want to go to the same jail he worked at was because he couldn't face the cadets he was bullying for fun.
Only one that works within my family. My wife is focused on her degree, and it's. I don't want to be in jail, Your Honor.
Well, the people you tased, they just wanted to, I'm assuming they were there to support their families as well. So why were you tasing people? And I don't want to hear, because how old are you?
24.
24. I don't want to hear this is like college and people are hazing people. I never understood why people who had been hazed decide to haze other people. So why were you tasing people at the jail who are just there? And I know those cadets are young because I've seen some of them. They're 18. Some of them look as though they're 12. So why were you tasing cadets?
Your Honor, doesn't make it right. It's a thing that's going around.
Oh, you're saying there are other cadets there are other people at the name.
Deputy Garcia tried to cover up by claiming it was a long-standing practice. The judge cut him off and went over to humble him for the next few minutes, leaving him speechless.
Who are tasing people at the jail.
Off the top of my head, Your Honor, it's been a while. I don't.
No, I'm thinking, who tased you? Give me a name. I'm sure the state would like to know these names. So who are the names of the people who were tasing you?
Your Honor, I do not remember.
Of course, you always remember the first person who tased you.
The first person who tased me was in proper training.
Oh, what's their name?
That was.
All of the complainants in this case remember you as tasing them. That's why you're here. So who tased you?
In proper training, it was Deputy Chavez.
No. Not in training, because you were not tasing people in training. I know that sometimes, and I don't know if it's still the case, I think it's not the case, they would tase officers in training so they would know this is the voltage of the taser, this is how it feels. Much like in the military, when they release the gas, so you'll know how to wear your mask properly. No, I'm talking about who tased you improperly, because that's why we're here. You're saying people hazed you, so you're just hazing people. So who are these people who tased you when you were not in training?
Your Honor, I do not remember names.
All right, so who else is tasing people at the jail?
Garcia tried to dodge the question, but didn't realize he was up against a brilliant judge who wouldn't let him off so easily.
Because that's what you're telling people. You're telling me, you're telling the states, you're telling the attorney that there's tasing happening at the jail. I'm sure those cadets don't want to be tased if it's not in training. So who are these other people who are tasing cadets? We want to know. So tell me who they are. Do you need to sit in the box while you think of the names of the people?
Mr. Randall.
Any reason why are you not intentionally not remembering names, correct?
No, I cannot remember.
Oh, I mean, if you want to sit in the box and think about the names, because you can't just throw around people are being tased at the jail by other people and then that's it. Who are these people who are tasing people? There's nothing worse. Well, there may be other things that are worse than people who say, well, I heard. But you're not saying I heard.
Yes, ma'am.
You're saying, oh, now you're changing it to I heard?
I haven't seen someone get tased. I've heard of stories of people getting tased, and I just ran with that.
Oh, so he's never seen anybody tased. So now he's not just continuing the hazing that happened to him. He was just tasing people. Your unborn child, is this going to be a girl or a boy?
He's born 4 months old. He's a boy, yes, ma'am.
The deputy continued making a joke of himself, left with no answers. The pathetic bully never considered his actions wrong, and the judge kept pressing on his vague excuses.
He's born 4 months old. He's a boy, yes, ma'am.
4 months old. So what if he decides to be a cadet at the jail and somebody like you, who's 6'10", however much you weigh, is tasing him?
I would be unhappy with that.
Mm-hmm. How unhappy would you be?
Very unhappy. Very unhappy.
And how would you think the work environment would be for your son when they're constantly worried about some guy who's bigger than them tase them?
As a parent, I would not approve of that work environment, Your Honor.
Mm-hmm. That's what you did. Some people would call it being a bully, but that's what you did.
Yes, ma'am.
So you deserve a conviction, and I'm going to give you a conviction. Is there anything else from either party? In the state jail facility, suspended and probated for 4 years. Proof of employment within 30 days. There's to be no employment as a home health care provider or with minors. Regular reporting. Oh, and if I haven't said it before, I'm finding you guilty. There's to be regular reporting by Zoom or in person. There's to be regular UAs. There's to be the permanent surrender of your TCOL license. And I know sometimes people will give up their TCOL license, but then they go to another state and they're allowed to become officers again. So while you're on this probation, there's to be no employment as a security officer.
In my opinion, the deputy was lucky not to get a jail sentence. His punishment felt like a slap on the wrist. But the judge made sure to humble him one last time.
Court is not waiving any of those hours, and I'm going to require parenting classes. Probation, is there anything else? Is there anything else you need from the court to be successful?
Want to just give you anything, help you at all. This is your time to ask.
Sir, is there anything else you need from the court to be successful on this probation?
No.
All right. I'm showing you what's entitled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Rights to Appeal. Did you review that with your attorney? Did you understand it? And did you sign it? All right, we can go off the record. I understand why you don't want to do your time at the Bexar County Jail. And you know what? I know it has to do with people in the box and security for you at the Bexar County Jail. So that heavy beating of your heart, that's the heavy beating that all of those cadets had whenever you were on shift. And you need to remember that. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right, good luck to you. Yes.
I apologize for field visits.
Yes, field visits once a month for 3 months. All right, just have a seat. They'll go over conditions with you. With your attorney, did you understand it and did you sign it? All right, we can go off the record. I understand why you don't want to do your time at the Bexar County Jail. And you know what? I know it has to do with people in the box and security for you at the Bexar County Jail. So that heavy beating of your heart, that's the heavy beating that all of those cadets had whenever you were on shift. And you need to remember that. Do you understand?
Sure.
All right, good luck to you. Yes.
I apologize. You want to feel busy?
Yes.
Garcia was immediately fired from the Behar County Sheriff's Office. And although he wasn't arrested, he will never get to be a law enforcement officer again, thanks to Judge Boyd. Well, this isn't the last time a judge destroyed an officer in court, as this case will leave you stunned.
At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up nigga. LOL. How humiliating and degrading. Be a positive example to Officer Zelenuski.
On January 28, 2015, Inkster police officer William Mendez and his partner John pulled over a black man for a traffic violation. What followed will shock you as Judge Vonda Evans details the incident during the trial.
I'm going to start out with Mr. Dent. The victim involved in this tragedy is a 58-year-old black man who was driving his Cadillac in Inkster, a suburb of Detroit. On the evening of January 28, 2015, where his life changed forever. He was stopped by the defendant, a then Inkster police officer, and his partner, Officer Zelenuski. Mr. Dent was stopped for a minor traffic offense and ordered out of his vehicle. With his hands extended out of his driver's window, he was grabbed out, thrown to the ground, and struck 16 times in the head by the defendant. In his attempt to arrest him, he was thrown onto a window shield of a patrol car, bleeding profusely from a head injury. The responding police officers arrived as the defendant is wrestling the defendant to the ground. Mr. Dent was struck, kicked, and tased while on the ground by what appeared to be a group of angry, anxious police officers that celebrated after the defendant was beaten and cuffed.
This horrible beating had left Dent's face and shirt drenched in blood, but the officer's reaction to this was even worse.
The video in the car shows the police officers fist bumping as a celebratory act of bravery by the defendant and his cohorts. But the one image that struck out to the court was looking at Mr. Dent in his cell, shaking his head. In disbelief of what had occurred to him. If his conduct was indicative of what he was thinking, I would have thought this. What crime did I commit? Being a black man in a Cadillac, stopped for a minor traffic offense by a group of racist police officers looking at. As police officer John Zelenuski, auxiliary police officer, testified in court too, in his response to a text, was quoted as saying, "At least give me the satisfaction of knowing that you're out there beating up right now. LOL. How humiliating and degrading that must have been."
After his arrest, the officers kept on humiliating, cleaned his blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. Dent was also charged with resisting arrest and drug. The judge was devastated by the events and delivered a powerful, heartfelt lecture.
He was left in a cell for a number of hours before getting medical treatment. But after hearing the defendant and his fellow officers joke about his injuries as they were wiping blood off their uniforms with disinfectant. 2015. Please be quiet in my courtroom. How does this happen? I'm going to tell you how it happened. Some years ago, 19 to be, well, 25 to be exact, I remember coming into this building with such enthusiasm, so excited. And I remember a lawyer telling me that nobody leaves out of this building like they came in. I didn't understand what that meant. You go to social events, you tell people what you do for a living, and after they say, what kind of cases do you hear? And as a judge, prosecution, defense, does criminal defense, a police officer, after a while they say, we don't want to know anymore. That's the job in the criminal justice system.
Racist Officer William could only sit and listen as the judge spoke. How fitting that he was being humbled by an African-American woman.
These pressures and expectations force officers who have a pure desire to purely serve the community as an occupation to conform to this group mentally or face being ostracized and labeled as an outcast among that group. These methods of indoctrination are passed along to new police recruits in the academy by stressing the importance of obedience to authority through a structure of shame and honor. It teaches them to conform and obey to the prevailing standards of the police culture. Field training, the recruit gets a reality check of what it's like to be out in the city. I was out at a mall yesterday. I asked a woman a question. I said, you don't have to answer. How much do you get paid an hour? She said, $15 with benefits. Well, guess what? That's more than what Inkster gets. They don't get benefits. The equipment, the police cars are old. We went out to the scene. Early in the morning, there were people who were using drugs. They just kind of came out. And the only thing I could imagine was the only thing that is separating these people from drugs are the police officers that appeared in my court.
Judge Vonda not only blasted the officer in question, but also questioned the overall system that produces such cops. On the other hand, all charges against Dent were dropped, and he settled with the city for $1.4 million.
According to Law Enforcement Today, a publication, police officers had the highest rate of alcoholism, divorce, drug abuse, suicide. Their life expectancy is 10 years less than the average American. Police are human beings too. They feel despair and they have ups and downs. Their job is made worse because they see on a daily basis, more than any other occupation, the worst behavior that people can inflict on one another. They go to work every day with the knowledge that some of the people that they are sworn to protect and serve want to kill them. But how do we as a community expect superior services from police officers who are making security guard salaries to receiving little compensation and struggling just to pay health care? We would rather save a few dollars to balance a budget than pay millions of dollars to reverse a tragedy that we could have prevented. I know that Mr. Dent would give back every dime of his $1 million settlement to go back to where he was in his life before January 28th. I wonder what would one half of that $1.4 million settlement awarded to Mr. Dent have done for the Inkster Police Department. Training officers that wanted to serve and not hiring officers that didn't belong. It's my belief that when we begin to value and properly compensate and train those that want to serve, then and only then will we as a community receive the type of services that we expect and demand from the defenders of our community, the police. It's amazing how poor cities like Flint can find millions of dollars to attempt to reverse a situation that $100 a day could and would have prevented.
Moving on, this corrupt cop was absolutely owned and belittled in the courtroom after his corruption was caught.
I feel like I'm being very much bullied into doing something that's not right, and I want this court to know that Todd Pate holds himself responsible for everything that he did.
Police officers often face the heat of justice in courtrooms, and today we will be looking at some of the best moments when corrupt cops were held accountable by some honest judges. We begin with former Breckinridge County Sheriff Todd Plate, who is far from a typical defendant. He is facing charges of assault, second offense DUI, criminal mischief, and leaving the scene of an accident.
This time is it your desire to change your plea from not guilty to guilty?
Do I have to answer that yes or no, or can I make somewhat of a statement?
That is a yes or no answer, sir.
Will I have the opportunity to say anything further?
If it is your intention to change your plea from not guilty to guilty, certainly you'll have an opportunity to make any statement. But if it is not your intent to enter a guilty plea at this time, then I'm going to set your case for jury trial, and you're going to stop wasting my time and everybody else's time this afternoon.
Ma'am, I'm not trying to waste your time.
And then is it your intention to enter a guilty plea at this time or not, sir?
No. Why am I wasting your time?
4 people were hurt in an accident that Todd allegedly caused while driving a car. Shockingly, he fled the scene. When arrested, his blood alcohol was nearly twice the legal limit.
Why am I wasting your time?
Mr. Chambers, what is the Commonwealth's position at this time, sir?
Your Honor, we would move to revoke the defendant's bond at this time.
Let's get back on the record and see if we can sort this out. At this point in time, what is Mr. Pate's decision with respect to his guilty pleas?
So I believe I'll just let him answer that question if it pleases the court.
All right. So, Mr. Pate?
Can I say a few things, or?
I need to understand what it is that we're doing here today, Mr. Pate.
Yes, I had every intention of coming in here today and entering a guilty plea. It's difficult for me to enter a guilty plea for a lot of reasons, and I don't want this court to think that I am trying to minimize any responsibility that I had in this situation that occurred.
The controversy deepened as he disputes the assault charge, thinking it was added solely because of his role as a sheriff and his decision to reject a plea deal offered by the prosecutor.
Like I'm being very much bullied into doing something that's not right. And I want this court to know that Todd Pate holds himself responsible for everything that he did. It's hard for me to lay down and plead to felony charges that don't apply.
Is it your intention today to enter this guilty plea?
And if I could address...
This is either a yes or no. Are you going to enter your plea or not?
I guess everybody thinks it's funny.
With credit for time previously served, he eventually entered a guilty plea and accepted a sentence of 75 days in county jail. Now, this case was intense, but the next courtroom showdown will leave you questioning everything.
We've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you again.
Okay.
You have your ID on you?
I don't have
Put your hands right here.
In December 2018, a YouTuber named Otto the Watchdog held several signs while standing on public land. As cars drove by, many waved and honked in support. What started as a peaceful demonstration was about to take a dramatic turn.
Sheriff's Office dispatch.
Hi, there's some people out here at Interstate 30 and South Elm that have some very offensive signs.
Officer Johnny Clark led the Roy City Police Department's response to Otto's location, as officers from the department were dispatched to the scene.
Where's Johnny with the other one? Should be right over here. Thank you. Yes. Some guy holding up a sign that says shit is f***ed up and stuff or something.
Still in office.
How are you?
Well, I was doing just fine until just a minute ago.
I've already heard you say a cuss word once. What do your other signs say, sir? Sir, what do your other signs say?
What am I doing?
Okay, can I see your other signs?
No, leave my seat alone.
Sir, we've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't let me look at your sign, I'll take you in custody for disorderly conduct.
I'm not being disorderly.
Otto was soon approached by officers who confronted him about his sign. Sergeant Dial was clearly displeased with Otto's firm refusal to consent to search or seize his property despite their demands.
I'm not being disorderly.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you again. All right?
I don't consent to any searches or seizures.
Okay. This is offensive to people that are driving by. and families
Is
that are
that
driving by.
against the law?
Yes, it's disorderly conduct.
What's the penal code?
It's disorderly conduct.
Can you read that to me?
It's disorderly conduct. You have your ID on you?
No.
Okay. Now you're filling the ID.
I don't have
Put your hands right
The tension reached a boiling point when the senior officer angrily punched Otto's signs out of his hands. Everyone was shocked by the aggression, even Officer Clark.
Roll over. Since he's failing the ID, take him to jail for disorderly conduct. When we're here answering a complaint and you refuse to identify yourself, that is a crime. When you're displaying these signs and people are calling because it's offensive to them, that is another crime. So yes, you have committed a crime. You've committed two.
You didn't warn me.
We don't have to warn you. Ignorance of the law. I asked you politely to see your signs and you said no.
I consent to any searches or seizures of my property or my person.
In a powerful act of passive resistance, Otto laid down on the ground, showing that the arrest was unlawful. His message was clear, that he wouldn't resist, but wouldn't comply either.
Is that your cell phone and tripod? If it's not, I'm gonna leave it sitting here. If it is, I'm gonna take it and put it up so somebody doesn't steal it. But if you want to act this way, I'll leave it sitting here and let somebody steal it.
Why would you do that?
Okay. We don't know whose stuff that is either.
I have a question. What am I being arrested for?
The officer just explained.
Now's not the time to ask questions. Oh, it is the time to ask questions.
You know what?
Nobody even asked me to identify. All he did is ask me if I had ID, and I don't have ID.
Let me explain something to you, young man. We're not holding court on the side of the road with you. Okay?
Well, you're arrested me.
We're not holding court with you.
I just want to know why I have handcuffs.
Any questions you have, you can ask the jail or you can ask the court.
You gonna get up?
I can't.
Okay. Roll back over and I'll help you up.
I'm not sure if I can do that either. I would like to see your supervisor right now before you assault me any further.
We're not.
I am being assaulted. I have not committed a crime.
When the officer threatened to leave Otto's camera at the scene for anybody to take, he then worsened the situation.
I have not committed a crime.
Get up.
I have not committed a crime. I can't get up. You're hurting me. You are hurting me.
Then get up.
I cannot get
then
up.
Get
like
up.
This. I can't
get up
like this.
They lift you up.
I'm trying to get up. Matt, please.
Get up.
Well, assist me up instead of trying to.
We're trying to help you up.
Lift you up.
I'm trying to get ass.
Yes, I've seen the game before. Roll up to your knees and they will assist you up.
Roll up to my knees. I'm a fat man.
Okay.
Help me to my knees.
We already have one.
Well, help me again.
Now they'll lift you straight on your feet. Stand up.
Okay, help me up. I have committed no crime. I have committed no crime whatsoever. Get my equipment.
That's not yours. Remember, I asked you earlier. Come on.
So you're gonna leave my shit on the side of the road. Get my equipment. Get my equipment. You dude, I'm asking for you to get my. Hey, I've committed no crime.
Unlock your car,
no
please.
crime.
I want to turn this phone off.
I ain't turning nothing off. I'm gonna leave it right like that. Put it in evidence.
According to the Texas Penal Code, people are not required to identify themselves until they are under arrest, despite the officer's claims that Otto was held for failing to identify himself.
I asked him if it was his. He didn't want to talk.
I heard it on.
Yeah.
Okay. He knew where his car was.
Somewhere up there. If I had to bet.
Still under arrest for failed ID.
I was under arrest, and then I ID'd, as the code says.
No, the code says when you're legally detained, you're required to ID yourself. You did not.
It specifically says arrested. Okay. I didn't do nothing.
What's your phone number?
I didn't do nothing.
In response to this injustice, Otto sued Officer Short and Sergeant Dial, claiming they had violated his First Amendment rights and engaged in malicious prosecution. Otto's attorney expertly undermined the sergeant's case throughout the deposition, leaving him completely vulnerable and unable to justify his conduct.
As I explained earlier, one, it was an officer safety issue because I don't know what the signs are made out of or what they were. And they could be used as a weapon. And secondly, we were still investigating whether a crime had been committed, and he was unwilling to show us what the other two signs or what the sign said other than what we could see.
Did you believe that Mr. Knowles had an obligation to give you those signs?
What do you mean, an obligation?
Did you have the right to see those signs?
Well, it's part of our investigation.
Did Mr. Knowles have the right to refuse showing you the signs?
Anybody can refuse anything.
Objection form.
Why did you hit the sign so hard?
Objection form.
Sergeant Dial should have a firm grasp of the law after 11 years on the police force, yet his ignorance was clearly evident throughout the deposition.
I don't know what your definition of hard and soft is, and that was 5 years ago.
How do you define hard and soft? You can use your own definition, please.
In regards to what?
The level of force that you applied to the signs.
I mean, I don't know how I would describe hitting a sign soft or hard.
Why didn't you use less force when touching the signs?
Objection. I didn't know I used too much force.
Could you have used less force when touching the signs?
Objection form.
In regards to what? I mean, what was the amount of force that I used?
You said earlier that you conducted an investigation after you arrived on the scene that day with Knowles. What were the results of that investigation?
In regards to what?
In addition to violating Otto's rights under the 1st, 4th, and 14th Amendments, Sergeant Dial's utter lack of understanding about disorderly conduct laws was painfully clear.
Did you find anything during your investigation that caused you to arrest Knowles, that caused anyone to arrest Knowles?
Through our investigation, we determined that disorderly conduct had been committed.
How did disorderly conduct get committed?
Due to the verbiage that was on the signs, and we had received complaints.
His ignorance was a clear sign that he was completely unfit for the job.
If you received the same complaints and those signs had said something different, would Knowles have been arrested?
The same complaints in what? Because the complaint we had was, it was vulgar and offensive.
What I'm asking you is, if the complaints were the same, but the contents of the signs were different, would Knowles have been arrested?
Objection form.
What if the sign said Blue Lives Matter?
How is Blue Lives? There's nothing vulgar about Blue Lives Matter. There's no profanity in Blue Lives Matter.
Are you saying that if the sign said Blue Lives Matter, Knowles would not have been arrested?
I'm telling you that based on the complaints that we received that day, a guy telling me that he was offended by the profanity and vulgar that was being used in the signs.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sergeant Dial said the arrest was initiated because the sign hurt someone, although he could not name any laws that Otto had broken. It is clear he needs to read up on the Constitution before making any more decision.
If the complaints were the same, but the sign said Blue Lives Matter, would Knowles have been arrested that day?
Objection, son. There's no vulgar or profanity in in the verb or term, the verbiage or term Blue Lives Matter.
Do you think anyone that says a bad word publicly should be arrested?
No.
Why not?
Did someone complain on them, or they just out there just throwing a fit? No complaints. I mean, there's several reasons why we would not arrest someone. I mean, if nobody finds it offensive, then disorderly conduct's not met.
So if the language on the signs had not offended someone, Knowles would have been arrested, or would he not have been arrested?
So you're telling me we didn't receive any calls and nobody complained to us? Would we have arrested Knowles that day?
Correct.
No, we wouldn't not have.
During the deposition, the lawyer took over the situation by interrogating Sergeant Dial incessantly. However, the true surprise was still to come.
What specifically did Clark say to you about Knowles' prior disorderly conduct?
He was explaining it to Knowles that as I'm walking up, he's explaining it to him that, look, I've already heard you out here cussing at people.
So he was talking to Knowles, not you?
That is correct.
Did any motorists complain about the prior alleged profanities that Knowles said before you arrived?
Well, the one gentleman told me about the signs, and regarding what the people on 911 called in about, I do not recall that.
If anyone complained about verbal language and you didn't hear any allegedly profane verbal language from Knowles at the scene?
I did not hear it, but I heard Clark explaining to Knowles that he has already witnessed it or observed it himself.
As he prepared to ask the last question, the attorney knew it would leave the officer completely speechless, and it did.
Do you know one word of profanity that Knowles said?
No, I do not.
And you are not aware of any person that was offended by what Knowles said?
No.
When the sergeant unintentionally acknowledged that the arrest was based only on the placard's content, he immediately exposed the constitutional rights infringement and dug his own grave.
Were you offended by the contents of his signs?
No.
Why did you think they were offensive?
The sergeant's errors mounted as the attorney focused on the First Amendment infringement, underscoring his total ignorance of the law.
So you would arrest somebody if a citizen complained about vulgarities?
Objection, phone. So a citizen made the police department or dispatch aware that they had used profanities and vulgarities and were offended. Would I arrest someone?
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Have you arrested more than 5 people in your career?
I believe that would be an accurate statement.
Have you observed more than 10 arrests in your career?
I'd probably say I have observed more than 10 arrests in my career.
It is startling that a 10-year police veteran was unaware of the First Amendment. This then calls into question the caliber of law enforcement training. What sort of personnel are we teaching to serve and defend?
Have you observed more than 25?
That I don't know.
Have you observed more than 30 arrests in your career?
I don't know.
Do you remember any specific details about your training regarding First Amendment rights?
No, I do not.
Are you saying that you don't remember one word from your training regarding First Amendment rights?
Objection. That is correct. We went over the elements of the Constitution, and I believe the First Amendment is part of the Constitution.
But specifically the First Amendment, you don't remember?
Correct.
Do you remember how long you spent studying constitutional rights?
No, I do not.
Have you had any training related to constitutional rights since you became an officer?
I do not recall.
It is baffling that someone in such a high-ranking position could exhibit such a glaring lack of knowledge. How can we trust officers with such critical authority when they don't even understand the basics of the Constitution?
What topics have you been trained on since you became an officer?
I don't recall all of them.
Name one.
Accident investigation.
Anything else?
Well, I'm sure there's others.
Where did you receive the training regarding constitutional rights in 2007?
When I was in the police academy, is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring to the training that you refer to, that you received in 2007 regarding First Amendment rights.
The Collin County Collin College Police Academy.
And who trained you in constitutional rights?
Could not tell you.
Because you don't remember?
You're asking for the instructor's name? No, I do not remember the instructor's name.
This is the result of insufficient instruction on the First Amendment and fundamental right.
Do you remember anything about the protections provided to citizens by the First Amendment?
No, I do not.
Are you aware that the First Amendment gives citizens what's known as the freedom of speech? Have you heard of the freedom of speech?
I have.
What do you think that means?
Interpretations are a dime a dozen. But basically someone can speak freely.
Following the deposition, the city was compelled to settle, and Otto was given $25,000.
First Amendment protect a person from being arrested because of what they say.
Objection form calls for legal conclusion. Do I answer it? Answer. I think at times it may.
Has the police department provided you with any subsequent training on constitutional rights since you've been an active officer?
I do not recall.
Have you received any training, guidance, or instruction regarding First Amendment rights while you've been a police officer?
Objection form. In the police academy, I know we went over the constitutional rights.
But anything since then?
I do not recall.
Next, these violent cops did the unthinkable and were rightfully owned in court.
The fleeing is over, but Kevin Perez didn't care. He doesn't kick once, he doesn't kick twice, he doesn't kick 3 times, he keeps kicking.
Cops can use their authority to get out of trouble unless the matter is in court. Today we'll be going through some of the most shocking moments when these corrupt cops were owned and given life sentences in courtrooms. On July 26, 2021, Delonte Crudup, a tourist in Miami Beach, struck a police officer as he was riding his scooter. He ran away inside a nearby hotel and attempted to escape on an elevator when an officer rushed and caught him by pointing a gun at him. However, once the arrest was made, Officer Kevin Perez went absolutely mental, kicking him and punching him in the face multiple times. Soon after, other cops also joined in, brutally assaulting the poor guy who had already given up. The state attorney's office charged Perez with battery. Here's what the police chief had to say about this.
It's unspeakable, it is just inexcusable. And I'm not alone in that feeling.
This is not indicative of who we are. It's not indicative of the work that we've done.
The trial progressed with arguments from both the defense and the prosecution. After hearing closing statements from both sides, the jury delivered its verdict.
This case is about the beating of an unarmed, handcuffed black man, Delonte Crudup, by an overzealous police officer, Kevin Perez.
Delonte Crudup has every incentive to say that Kevin Perez committed a battery upon him, so he won't have to account for his own behavior.
It is very, very obvious what he has on his mind, and it's retaliation.
The fleeing is over, but Kevin Perez didn't care. He doesn't kick once, he doesn't kick twice, he doesn't kick 3 times, he keeps kicking.
There were no unlawful strikes, kicks, or drops. Kevin Perez did not commit a crime.
Eventually, the jury could only find the officer guilty of a misdemeanor charge of simple battery, and the sentence would then be announced at a later date. Now moving on, this officer did something even worse, deserved a much bigger sentence that would see him in jail for a long time.
Having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days.
In 2019, Officer Aaron Dean was dispatched to the residence of Atiana Jefferson after her neighbors complained about an intruder being inside. As the officer arrived, he shot through the window, killing her on the spot. He was charged with murder, and after some hearings, the judge announced his sentence.
Y'all did fabulous when we did the guilt-innocence verdict, okay? Same rules apply. I don't know what this verdict is. Can't have any emotions, all right? Let's bring him in. Mr. Dean. Verdict reads, we the jury, having found the defendant Aaron York Dean guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of manslaughter, assess his punishment at confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 11 years, 10 months, 12 days. They do not assess a fine. And it is signed by the presiding juror. You may be seated. Thank you very much.
A cold-blooded murder and 11 years in prison. Dean definitely got the officer treatment here.
Juror number 1, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 3, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 4, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 6, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 9, is this your verdict? Juror number 37, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Juror number 38, is this your verdict?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your verdict will be received and filed. Thank you very much. Mr. Gill, Mr. Brissett, is there any legal reason why sentence should not be pronounced?
No legal reason.
Mr. Dean, it's the jury having found you guilty of the offense of manslaughter and assessed this punishment. It's the order of the court you be remanded to the custody of the sheriff, be delivered to the director of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve your sentence as required by law. You will receive credit for all the time that you have served in custody on this case from the date of your original arrest.
He sat in front of the judge, having no regrets whatsoever, and was finally removed from the courtroom.
If you are indigent and cannot afford a lawyer, I would conduct an indigency hearing to determine if you are indigent. And if you are indigent, I would appoint a lawyer to represent you on appeal and provide you a record of this appeal of this trial at no cost. Is there an allocution? You may be seated. Thank you very much.
Now, Officer Dean is still in prison, but the family of Atiana feels that the punishment should have been more. While this was a normal officer, next up we have a sheriff who did the unthinkable and was taken to the cleaners in the courtroom.
You are not above the law, nor can you ignore the law when it serves your purpose. The sentences will be served consecutively for a total of 4.5 years.
Rio Arriba County Sheriff James Luan went over to save his friend, City Councilor Philip Chacon, after the police had come over to his house to arrest him. This led to an inquiry against the sheriff, and soon the deputies got a warrant for his phone. However, as they arrived at the sheriff's office, Luan had no clue what was about to happen.
Morning, sir. Executing search warrant. Sheriff Lujan.
Search warrant for him or?
For the building as well.
For what?
I have no idea. It's house. But no, just stay here. No, I can't have you enter the scene.
You guys are fucked up, man.
Let's get him on the opposite side of this truck.
Let's go over here, sir.
Cody? Let's go on the opposite side.
Sir, let's walk over here.
Why is that, dude? That's messed up,
Let's
dude.
walk over here.
Sheriff. That's what I'm saying. Let's get him on the opposite side of this truck.
Well, you got Tabitha over there.
Right here, right here,
Right here. I got the press out here taking pictures of me in handcuffs.
Still intoxicated by his power, Sheriff Luan believed that he couldn't be tried or held accountable no matter what happened. However, this time, his party was over.
Push him around into the doorway. Yeah, push him around into the doorway. At least to the doorway.
Aye!
This is ridiculous.
Keep him up there.
Hold on, we have press.
Keep him up there. Come over here, sir.
Keep him up there.
Sheriff,
Go. Stay out here.
Just stop.
Ah, Jesus. Really?
You don't have to.
Look
just
to you.
stand.
Look behind
Just
you.
stand. Just stand.
Stand up. Put him on this side of the truck. Put him on the outside of the truck.
It hurts. They're loose, sir. They're loose.
No, they're not loose. Stipulation.
Can you take these handcuffs off? They hurt. They hurt. Am I under arrest?
You're being detained.
Well, yeah. Why do I have to have cuffs on? They hurt.
The sheriff's deputies also joined in the resistance, but quickly realized that the situation was now past them.
5, 2 all units, make sure you guys stay running hot. So on this is signed by a district court judge. Good. Okay. Judge Bowman. Okay. First judicial. Okay. So this search warrant gives me the authorization to seize your phone. Okay. Search your phone. Okay. But it also gives me the authorization. So what I'm asking for you to do is unlock your phone, unlock it, give it back to me, and I'm going to remove the security settings. I don't want your passcode. I'm not asking for your passcode. I'm asking you to unlock the phone. For the search warrant, you can read it if you want under number 2.
I will if I get a chance to talk to my attorney.
It doesn't work like that.
Marty!
This is not a negotiation. This is not a This is not a negotiation, Sheriff. This is not a negotiation.
Luan's corruption could have been exposed instantly if he had just handed over his phone. Instead, the corrupt sheriff chose to be arrested rather than comply.
You can talk to your attorney when this is
I've
all
been
done.
asking.
When this is all done, you can call your attorney. But right now, we're trying to get you to comply with the warrant. The warrant stipulates exactly what we want. You give us that, we'll get the phone, we're out of here. That's it. What do you want to do, Sheriff?
Right now, I am under arrest. Because I am under arrest. I am in handcuffs. I'm not free to leave. I'm not free to leave? Am I free to leave?
No.
No. Then, if I'm under arrest, I have a right to an attorney, correct?
You do.
Okay.
And I'm not questioning you.
I'm invoking my right to an attorney right now.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
So, take him in.
Book me for
booking. For obstruction. Obstruction.
booking. I'm not obstructing.
Take him over here to our unit. Take him over here to our unit.
Over here, Sheriff. Over here.
Sheriff. They're gonna book me.
Take him. Really?
Look at this shit. Look.
Stop. Just walk. Just walk.
What are you doing?
The Santa Fe deputies did an outstanding job standing up to the sheriff. Despite his authority, they refused to be intimidated and ensured that no one was above the law.
I'm telling you what the warrant stipulates.
I understand that.
I told you what the warrant stipulates. You had every opportunity to cooperate. You want to cooperate, you're going to jail. Have a seat, sir.
Alright, good. Why is already
Take the whole thing off. No, I haven't been searched. Just take me so we can do it.
I just want to make sure you don't have any knives.
I don't have any knives. I don't have any weapons. That's my wallet.
It's your wallet. What's this?
My keys to my truck. I don't have any weapons. Okay, I really don't. You took my weapon. As a matter of fact, you left it on the back of my truck over there. If you get somebody to secure it,
We'll
please.
secure everything for you. Have a seat.
Can you move these to the front?
No, sir. Against department policy. Have a seat.
Well, it's tighter than hell. They hurt.
Sheriff, those are very, very loose.
Really?
Step out. Let me see if I can fix them. They're very, very loose.
After the sheriff was handcuffed, his deputies tried to intimidate the Santa Fe officers, but it was too late. Sheriff Luan had no way to recover from this.
Here, Sheriff. Chief thought of Sheriff. That's his mag, and then we're gonna get you his sidearm.
Get everything. I don't want part of it.
What do you mean everything?
Everything.
So this is what we took off this person? You're the one that took it off this person?
Took it off this person.
Deputy Graves.
Well, inventory it before you get it.
We're handing it right over to you.
Inventory.
What are doing?
We're trying to do everything peacefully. We tried to. Okay? That's all we're doing. We're done here. We're leaving.
Okay, well, get out of here then. You're done. Get out.
We'll leave when we're ready.
You said you were done.
Yeah, we're wrapping it up right now. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. We're doing our law enforcement duties. That's it. District court signed it. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, so as soon as we're done, we're going to get out of your hair. Why are you calling everybody here to put them involved? Well, right now it's ours. Right now it's ours.
Oh, wow.
We own the building right now.
Shut up.
Don't talk to me like that.
Shut up.
I don't work for you. Don't talk to me like that.
Easy,
Go over
easy.
there. Get that and let's go. Are we done in there? Are we done in there? Okay.
Things took a turn for the worse for the sheriff as he was locked up in the police car and taken to a corrections facility. Eventually, the sheriff's mobile was taken away from him and searched. An investigation saw him racking up a couple of charges, including aiding a felon and intimidating a victim. This is what Luan was ultimately sentenced to.
The people of Rio Arriba County elected you to be sheriff. They put their trust in you to uphold the law, and you let them down.
Yes, Your Honor, I try to do the best that I can to help everybody I can, and I in no way would want to harm anyone.
The law is the law. You are not above the law, nor can you ignore the law when it serves your purpose. The sentences will be served consecutively for a total of 4.5 years, of which 3 years of imprisonment and 1.5 years supervised probation. You let down the people of Rio Rico County, and you let down the Sheriff's Department, the department that you led. What kind of example were you giving the people that you supervise?
Just a day after he was sent to jail for 3 years, Luan resigned from his position as the sheriff, finally ending the years-long corruption saga. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Today, we explored cases where corrupt police officers were exposed and held accountable in courtrooms. These moments showed how courtrooms can be the ultimate place for justice, leaving no room for corruption or abuse of power. If you agree, please consider supporting by liking this video. Also, if you enjoyed this video, watch the moments these evil officers found out they had been exposed.
Messing with me? I didn't do anything.
We don't know.